Hello, guys. So my name is Victor, and I'm from the Zabbix support team. And today I'm going to talk about the many ways of escalating and remediating the problems that you have on Zabbix. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little story about John. John is a IT professional that works on monitoring from his company, and currently he's the main person to do this. He has to open the tickets, he needs to get all the alerts on Zabbix, and he's always looking at the screen. But we all know that John is a human being. So he needs to take breaks, he needs to attend to meetings, go to the bathroom, have lunch, and he's not working on holidays and weekends. So John is not able to do anything, everything. What to do? Well, let Zabbix do the work, right? One of the main points of having monitoring system is to respond to problems proactively and fix them with the least downtime possible. And with Zabbix, you can create actions that will notify the users and perform some automatic remediation, like inform users about new problems by sending notification via email, SMS, or any other webhook, or execute some remote commands automatically to try to remediate that problem. But about the actions, how does an action work? What are those? An action is a set of conditions followed by automatically executed set of operations. So it's basically you have a problem and that problem meets some conditions, and based on this, an action is triggered. An action is going to start to be executed. And you define this on configuration, actions, and trigger actions. And here we have a small example of the how you configure, how you make the settings of these actions. So you have here the conditions and another tab for operations. And basically, I'm telling here that if I have any problem where the host equals Zabbix server, so any problems with the Zabbix server that I have under our monitoring is going to perform this operation, send a message to the user admin via email. And then when the problem is resolved, it's going to notify all involved with a recovery operation, telling, hey, the problem has been solved. And this is a really simple example. Okay, we're gonna take a look at more complex scenarios. And one last thing before we go to that complex scenario, these are the details of the operation details. This is where you define when an operation will happen, who is going to receive the notification, choose what type of media is going to be used, or what a script will be executed. You can create a custom message. You can define how long it will take. And this is really useful, and you really need to use this when you are working with more complex scenarios. So with these custom scenarios, more complex scenarios, you can make use of escalation. In practical terms, it means that you have scheduled execution of steps. Those steps that we just saw, you have a scheduled execution of them. You can define when they will happen, how many times they will happen. And for example, we have here a really theoretical example. Don't ever do this in real life because I'll show you why. So in this example, I have 6 steps that are going to be automatically performed by the operations. And the first step is going to notify the responsible team about some problem. And after 10 minutes, if it's not resolved, it's going to send an SMS to the admin. And after 30 minutes, it's going to open a ticket on the help desk platform. After 2 hours, it's going to restart a Apache web server, probably where the problem is happening. And after 6 hours, and this is already extreme, the server will be rebooted. So you can just execute a remote command to reboot the server. And here, after 24 hours, if the problem is not resolved, no one was able to solve this, we have a ticking bomb in this example. because after 24 hours, it's going to power cycle the entire server room. So it's really important that you know what you are telling Zabbix to do, because Zabbix will, after 24 hours, if that problem still presents, it's going to power cycle the entire room, and it can bring more bad than good in the end. So about these custom scenarios, let's see some examples of these. The first one is delayed alerts. Okay, first of all, why delay? Why would I like to delay an alert? I want to receive everything as prompt as possible. But let's start to think about something that's really common. You have a warning. It's a warning alert. It's not a big deal. No one's losing money. The operation is still running. But small, long-standing problems can become a real headache. It's not good practice to have a warning for a huge amount of time. In this example here, you have a warning that is taking more than 10 hours. It's happening more than 10 hours. Then you can just tell Zabbix to receive, to send actually, sorry, to send a message to the users via SMS after 10 hours. I mean, that problem still exists. Why? But someone needs to be notified. And after 10 hours, a person will be notified about that problem. And this is how you set this small instruction here. You just set 2 from 2 is going to happen the second step. And after 10 hours, it's going to send an SMS to the admin Zabbix. And second example is repeated alerts. It's more like a common scenario, but also that should be used with caution. It sends a repeated notification every n minutes or hours for a certain amount of time, or infinitely until the problem is resolved. It's used for slightly more critical problems, which you need to be aware. So every time you're going to be receiving the notification, or you still have that problem, still have that problem, still have that problem. And that's why you need to take care on this configuration, because when you have a lot of messages, people just start to avoid and to ignore them. So you just need to be really careful with what you're doing here. So to set the repeated notifications, you go to the operations tab, set the default time, for example, in 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, a new step will be executed. And you set the escalation steps from, let's say, 1 to 5. So I'm telling here to Zabbix that each step is going to execute from 1 to 5. Each step is going to send an email to the Zabbix administrator. And I have here this limitation of 1 to 5, meaning that after, I think, 2 hours, maybe 2.5, after the first step, it will send immediately. You have a problem, it will immediately send an email about the problem. Then 30 minutes later, the second step will do the same thing. And then the third, and then fourth, and the fifth. But it will stop after the 5th time. If you want to keep this going on and on until the problem is resolved, you have to set the steps like this, 1 to 0, where 0 means infinitely. It will keep sending repeated notifications until the problem is resolved. And here's just another note about this. You can't have this step higher than this, this field higher than this, like 2 and 1. No, it will not work. Zabbix won't allow. The only exception is when you are doing 0. You're putting 0 here. And you can't also put 0 here. It will change automatically to at least 1. So this is how you get these repeated notifications, and you can have repeated notifications for an amount of time or infinitely. Okay, so we've seen a couple of examples, but now we want to actually escalate the problem across our group of users. So escalating the problem to the boss. You want to make sure that after some time the problem is escalated to the upper level. It's not only the boss. I mean, you can just get a support level 1 team, and then after some time it's going to send to support level 2 team. So it's escalated automatically, and you can define who is going to receive this. So here in this example, we have like the same concept. We set the duration to 1 hour, and the first steps you see here, the first step is going to execute 2 operations. So the first step is going to both send an email to the Zabbix administrator, and at the same time it's going to send uh, a message via Microsoft Teams. In this example, I'm using Teams, to the support level. So the support level and the Zabbix administrator are going to be aware of the problem. But we want to escalate this. And don't worry about these instructions. This will be shared with you. You can take a look with more time. But going on, and I want that after this third step here, when the third step is being executed, I want this to send a final message to the support level 1, and I also want the support level 2 to be aware. So you can see here that steps 1, 2, and 3 are going to do this, and 3 up to infinite, up until the problem is solved, is going to keep sending repeated messages to the support level 2. And you can just keep track of when this is going to happen because of this column right here. You see, the first step always happens immediately, but the others have to wait. The other steps have to wait for the default operation step or some custom duration step. In this case, in this example here, every 30 minutes, the support level 2 is going to receive a new message every 30 minutes. And after the first 30 minutes, the fourth step is going to be executed, sending the message to the manager via SMS. And this is how you just escalate the problem between the group of users. You can just define which one of those are going to receive the message and when they will start to receive, and so on. It can get really complex if you're just like setting all these schedules without the involved personnel from your company. It's really cool. It's really flexible with this duration. You can keep up with the default operation step, or you can just use some custom time. It's not let's say a fixed amount of time that you have for each step. It's really cool. The fourth scenario now, we already have this automatic message. It's escalating to the groups, but now we want to have an automatic remediation. You can tell Zabbix to execute remote commands. We already saw that. And it's going to be automatically executed by the Zabbix server, the proxy, or the agent. And remote commands on Zabbix agent can be executed directly by the Zabbix server or through the Zabbix proxy, meaning that the Zabbix agent will receive the command from the server or the proxy. Both on Zabbix agent and proxy, remote commands are disabled by default. I mean, it's a security issue. You don't want this to be by default enabled. So, but you can enable then tweaking some configurations when you have here like allow key, and you just can tell system run and the actual command that you want to execute, and some other parameters. In the agent configuration, you also need to enable remote commands on the proxy configuration. So the remote commands are going to execute something, and most of them are scripts or some commands, and all the scripts that are available for action operations are defined in global scripts. You go to administration and scripts, and you need to be super admin to see this, to have access to the session. And you can just create a new script internally on the front end. It's really simple. You give it a name, you set the scope, make sure that the scope is action operation, because otherwise you won't be able to select this script on the operations. Use it in actions. In my example, it was not set yet, but it's going to show all the actions where this is set, the type script, and I'm telling this to be executed on the agent level. The agent is going to be executing this command. And here's the command. It's a simple command. We all know this if you were working with Linux for a while. systemctl restart httpd servers, the Apache web server service. And here's how we define an operation for a remote command. Any scripts where the scope is defined as action operation will be displayed in the drop-down operation right here under operation. Otherwise, it's just going to tell you send message. At the point that you have one single script with this scope action operation, it's going to be listed here. The steps are defined just like the other operations. Don't worry about it. You can tell when that command, that script is going to be executed. You can tell how many times it's going to be executed, the step duration, everything. All you need to do, which is mandatory, you see here the red asterisk, is to set a target. And this target can be the current host from which that action was executed, the trigger that made that action execute, or you can have a list of hosts right here. You can set the full host group or just a list of hosts. And the current host option, it will not work in case of triggers that have multiple hosts, because Zabbix won't know which host it is to execute on. And maybe you don't want to execute on both of them. So here on our example scenario, I just added the fifth step, that it will run this script restart web server on the current host that presented the problem. So I know that after 3 hours, if that problem is not fixed, is not resolved, it's going to be executing a restart of the web server. Fifth scenario, but not, let's say, not about problems, but about recovery and update operations. I mean, they are related to problems, of course, but instead they will tell you if problem was updated or recovered. Let's take a look. So starting with update operations. They are available in actions with the following event source. So far, we just talked about triggers, but it's really cool that you know that services that was improved on Zabbix 6.0 also has triggers and also can be informed about an update. Okay, so if you have something on your service that you have, let's say you used to have like a disaster and now you have a warning, this small update will notify you via email and all the other media types. And about the triggers, every change that you make on this screen, when you click on problems and then there's a little egg column with yes or no, every change that you make here in this formulary is going to be an update, and based on that update, you're going to receive a notification. So let's say you have a problem with ICM ping, and you just put a message here, working on it, and then set to acknowledge and change the severity, let's say, to just information because you're already working on it or something like that. And this will send, this will send the message about the update. And it's really similar to the recovery operations. They have things in common, like both messages and remote commands are supported in recovery and update operations. But escalation is not supported. Okay, so you have a recovery event, and then you can just run a script. I don't know why, but it may be useful. Or send a message. Of course, you want to send a message to everyone about that. But escalation is not supported because it's not its nature. Like you have an update, you want to know when the update happened. You don't want to keep receiving recurrent or delayed message about that update. The problem is already on fire, right? And for the recovery, there's no escalation because the problem is solved. Why would you like to receive another message? Instead, our operations are assigned to a single step and therefore will be performed simultaneously. So if you want to run a script and send at the same time a message, those both steps are going to be executed in one single step. Those two operations will be executed in one single operation. And both recovery and update operation share the same options for operation details. And here you can see an example of what you can do. You can send a message, and here you just like the other examples, you're going to have you can have a list of people that you want to inform about that notification, or you can notify all involved. And Zabbix will know who was already notified about this problem. And Zabbix will send a notification to everyone. And I believe this is the best practice. I mean, if you just send a message to, let's say, to the manager, the support level 2 will not know if the problem was resolved or not, or something like that. And as you can see here, you can also run the script. So that's basically it. If you have any question, please let us know through our medias. And let me talk a little more about our training courses. Well, if you are really into Zabbix, you know that you can get certified. And here are all the certifications that we provide. And you can get all of this on our zabbix.com/training. And we also have this displayed on our web platform. So as you can see, we have Zabbix certified users for intro, if you are getting to know Zabbix or you're just going to work on an octane with Zabbix. We also have specialist and professional, which goes a little bit deeper. And you can see that it's a 5-day and 3-day course. So it's really gets into the details of all the functions of Zabbix, how to set triggers, how to set actions, maintenance, and create items, hosts, triggers, and etc. And professional level, it's a little more complex issues that you have in specialist. And if you really want to get deep into Zabbix, you can get Zabbix certified expert. And this is just like putting the car on the top and just messing around under it, or just open the hood and see how everything works, how the process works. And it is really amazing. But you see, there are some requirements here that needs to be met. We also have available extra training courses about some specific problems, specific scenarios and features like automation and integration with the Zabbix API, advanced Zabbix data pre-processing. If you want to get really into pre-processing with Zabbix, this is really great. Advanced Zabbix security administration. You know that Zabbix can be encrypted without the communication with Zabbix can be encrypted without the components, Zabbix agents, Zabbix proxies, database, and you can get all the details in here. And advanced problem and anomaly detection with Zabbix, which is really cool. This is really cool. This is really great. You can just predict and just tell Zabbix to detect this kind of problems and situations. And of course, not forget, if you didn't subscribe yet, just please don't miss the Zabbix Summit. We're going to have this, our 10th anniversary in Riga, October 7 and 8. We are waiting for you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And that's it for today. Bye-bye.